All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, we are back taking a look at the tropics. Today is Wednesday, July 7th, 2021, and this is your latest update on Tropical Storm Elsa, now just ashore over northern Florida and beginning to weaken as she does move to the north and should move through the Carolinas and the New England area over the next about 36 hours as she races up and out of here and out of the picture finally after a long week of tracking her. So last time we talked, Elsa was near the Tampa Bay region. She did move up last night. There was a last time we actually talked on YouTube and with the videos, Elsa was undergoing a pretty impressive intensification phase. Had a partial eye wall built, and then spectacularly collapsed at about 10 or 11 o'clock last night. And then she sort of leveled off and went back to a tropical storm. Wasn't a hurricane anymore, and stayed about 65 miles an hour and steady with that just partial eye wall feature coming ashore, but just remained a sheared storm in that dry air. As soon as she got going, went in there and just cleaned the whole eye back out and just made a restart. And thankfully, it doesn't look like the damage was too severe down in Tampa or anywhere else. Thankfully, she kind of fell apart at the last minute, which is nice because that's often what storms are supposed to do: is get weaker as they get close to the coast, not get stronger like they have in the last couple of years. So good news there. So National Hurricane Center's latest advisory 2 p.m. Is out. Maximum sustained winds right now just 50 miles an hour. She's moving to the north at about 14 miles an hour, and she's currently centered 105 miles to the west of Jacksonville, Florida. Your current watches and warnings in effect. A couple tropical storm warnings still up for a few counties in the Big Bend for a little while longer. We still have some onshore winds pushing some water, and there's just some pretty gusty winds from her center coming in off the water. So tropical storm warning still in effect there. That should be dropped probably at 5 p.m. Tropical storm warnings also still in effect for the Georgia and South Carolina coastlines and North Carolina through New Jersey, and the Delaware Bay south of Slaughter Beach has a tropical storm watch highlighted in yellow. It's a pretty cool name for a beach, by the way. Current radar imagery does show a couple little heavier bands within Elsa, the center of the storm, currently located near the Florida-Georgia border at this hour. You can see some heavier rain still training up into northeast Florida, and these little feeder bands kind of cutting across here. This is probably what gave Gainesville a nice wind gust earlier. This is currently centered through parts of Putnam and Clay counties. Should be moving into Duval and St. Johns and Nassau counties if it holds together. And this is where you'll find some of the strongest wind gusts, and people that are sitting around going, well, it's 3 o'clock. Didn't get much from Elsa. This is a joke. They're going to probably get a nice little fat burst of wind and rain and go, oh, okay, wow. So it hasn't been too bad in our area. Some reports of street flooding and whatnot. My personal station's got about zero point 0.6 inches of rain. So it's been, it's been some times where it's been gusty, but overall not too bad here. It looks like once again our area is going to mostly escape, with minimal damage. But we got to watch these last few bands as they come through, because not only can these be heavy wind gusts and heavy rain, they can also produce tornadoes. You can almost see how they kind of cut across each other. So there's some definitely wind shear in the atmosphere. So keep an eye out on that. Eastern Region headquarters showing you some of the wind gusts and whatnot received so far. You can see the highest were down there by Tampa Clearwater, where wind gusts 50 to 60 miles an hour were reported. And also we have some unofficial stations that aren't on here, such as Cedar Key. They're showing 48 on this map. The Hurricane Center reported last night they had a sustained wind near 60 miles an hour and a gust over 60 miles an hour, actually this morning, as Elsa did make landfall. So you'll likely see some of these numbers come up as more data comes in from more outlying stations and personal weather stations, things like that. There's only so many airports and official stations to catch winds like this. So overall forecast verifying okay. Again, that kind of last minute strengthening was then immediately halted, so it kind of put her back to where she was. Hurricane Center deserves a huge round of applause for this forecast. She landfalled within 75 miles of her 5-day forecast before she even hit the Windward Islands in the Caribbean, and was the exact intensity the Hurricane Center set her at. So an amazingly good job by the Hurricane Center. I posted about it on the page, but another round of applause for them. This forecast was sensational. It did not change hardly at all, and that was despite all the uncertainty and things like that. The Hurricane Center stood their ground, and it turned out to be another big win, and a lot of big wins they've had lately as far as their forecast tracks go. Intensity still can be tricky, but forecast tracks are getting really good. Weather roundup over the last hour: the biggest winners were Gainesville. It took a 44 mile an hour wind gust, so we can still see there are tropical storm force winds hiding in these bands, but largely these areas are reporting 20 to 30 mile an hour wind gusts, especially in interior central Florida, and those winds will spread north into northern Florida and southern Georgia through today. Let's go ahead and walk you through the impacts over the next couple hours and days as we look at Elsa moving into Georgia tonight. We can see here the GFS model expecting wind gusts, still around 30, 40 miles an hour at the peak, and that's about what we observed through northern Florida, so I think that's a pretty good call. The European model wants to go higher. I think that the Euro's idea that wind gusts can still be higher as she moves through, like Elsa is expected to be a tropical depression tonight, and as she travels through most of Georgia and the Carolinas, but those wind gusts still could peak up into the 40, 45 mile an hour range. So Euro probably overdoing it here, even set to knots. But definitely keep an eye out. That it doesn't have to be at the immediate coast. The most likely tropical storm force winds will be at the immediate coastlines, but don't think that a couple heavier rain showers and thunderstorms couldn't produce some strong wind gusts through the Carolinas and Georgia. Through their national forecast database, also showing that potential for 35, 45 mile an hour wind gusts, and those continue up through the coast. And honestly, could be a little bit higher than what these models show through parts of New England as she does move offshore and away. Rainfall totals still about 3 to 6 inches coming for southeast Georgia, where the heaviest rain remains to be fallen. We already have the rain shield sort of moving in at this hour, and then they'll probably get the feeder bands as well as Elsa kind of rotates up and out. They'll probably catch a lot of this heavier rain too. So that's probably the most likely place left where heavy rain will fall, but a solid 2 to 4 inches expected all through the next about 36 hours through the Carolinas, through the mid-Atlantic, and also up into the New England area. And just keep a note that this kind of rainfall, this solid 2 to 4 inch rainfalls with locally higher amounts in this sort of terrain with higher elevations and urban terrain can be pretty impactful. So, you see 2 to 4 in Florida, you're like, well, whatever, that's yeah, okay. And then you see is up here, it's like that could be a big problem for a lot of people. So don't discount the flooding risk from Elsa as she does move through. It will continue to be the most impactful problem Elsa has. Weather Prediction Center also carrying those slight to moderate excessive rainfall outlooks today for Georgia and South Carolina tonight, and then a slight risk for the Carolinas and New England region tomorrow into even parts of Friday. Storm Prediction Center still looking for some severe weather. Tornadoes still in the forecast. A tornado watch currently in effect for northeast Florida, southeast Georgia. Those probably will at least spread into parts of South Carolina. I could see maybe one more being issued. But as we go into Thursday, the Storm Prediction Center a little less up on the tornado probabilities, just a large 2% swath as she kind of races up and out. So not sure if we'll see more tornado watches. It'll probably be up to their discretion, but you could. So tornadoes still potentially in the forecast, at least in an isolated fashion. So keep an eye out for those and have some ways to get warnings near you while you're doing whatever it is you do. And storm surge not expected to be a big deal. There's some surge still coming ashore as the southwest winds kind of rotate around the backside of the storm. Actually, the most water rises in this area are probably going on right now, but those will subside over the next couple hours. And just a light, 1 to 2 foot surge expected along with abnormally high tides as you go up the east coast. Not expecting a major surge since this hurricane isn't able, or this tropical storm isn't able to push the water. This has kind of got that onshore breeze keeping tides higher than usual. So that's the latest on Elsa for the most part, guys. If you want to go to the National Hurricane Center's forecast area, they have the latest briefings on their page here right up front. And you can also go to weather.gov and get your latest forecast, put in your zip code, city, whatever you want to put in there that's local to you, and you will get some good information. And just want to spend 1 minute, guys. We also have another weather feature. It's kind of off screen here, but very heavy rain falling right now in eastern Texas as a upper level low is kind of sitting over the region, training very heavy rain. Right now, the National Weather Service in Rockport, Texas, which is near Corpus Christi, has issued a flash flood emergency for the area as a band of incredibly heavy rain has fallen, as much as 10 inches potentially in this area, and it has led to an emergency, which is a flash flood emergency is beyond a flash flood warning and is when life and property are being imminently threatened by flood waters. There's been high water rescues, people getting stuck in cars and buildings, water coming into buildings and houses. And it's definitely a rough afternoon there in Rockport. This isn't exactly a tropical system, but it's sort of tropical. It's a low pressure centered right over the southeast Texas coast, and it is pulling some really heavy rain. So it doesn't have to be a big named event to get some serious impacts, and they are seeing that in Rockport, Texas today. Rockport sounds familiar. That's where Hurricane Harvey hit in 2017, a Category 4. This is actually where the eye and all those mesovortices in that intense eye did come ashore and cause some pretty major to catastrophic damage. So the city is no stranger to rough weather, and they're getting it again today. So flash flood emergency, definitely a big deal, and wanted to throw that out there real quick before we ended the video. So that's what we got for this afternoon, guys. Might check in here this evening for YouTube, especially get y'all the latest, but overall, probably not going to see a whole lot of changes in what we just walked through in the forecast. That's mostly going to hold steady, and Elsa should be out of here. And the rest of the tropics, guys, thankfully is pretty quiet. Hurricane Center in the next 5 days, not tracking any named storms, any other storms of interest or areas of interest. And it looks like July might hopefully be a little quieter after Elsa. It looks like some things, might be a little more suppressed as we go into the middle and into the month. So let's hope that is, because this season probably picks back up pretty good in August and September if Elsa is any indication. So please have a plan. Please be prepared. And Elsa, another very good dress rehearsal for what could be to come down the road. So that's what I got for you guys today. As always, thanks for watching. Have a good one.